This is a simple 10-minute hand sketch that I did the other day, and I'm gonna prove you how we can transform this into a professional CAD plan with 4 elevations. Now, if you are a beginner and you want to learn new commands and you want to understand how CAD works, this is the perfect tutorial for you to get started and to just draft a beautiful patio in AutoCAD. If you are an advanced user or if you already have some knowledge, it's never late to sharpen your skills and to learn workflows and to see how we can draft this as quickly as possible in CAD. That's it, let's get started. The first thing that we're going to do is that we're going to drop this image right here on the model space. And for doing that, I'm just gonna drag it from the folder right here. And I am just going to drop it there. Now, I'm gonna start by creating a modulation grid. And for doing that, I'm gonna go to layers and I'm gonna create a new layer that is gonna be called grid. In this grid layer, I'm going to select a 252 color and I'm going to make it current. After that, I'm gonna draw a polyline and I am going to draw 12 meters. After that, I'm gonna scale a little bit the sketch just is with the same size or a similar size of our site, and I'm just gonna put it here on the side. So the sketch is basically a patio. This is the plan view. Some of the feature is it has a table, it has a free planter with a silver, it has a freestand planter with a silver birch, and also 2 freestanding planters with clumping bamboo. It also has a water feature and this type of spiral paving on the floor. I'm gonna prove you how we can do this as quick as we can with basic tools like polylines, extend command, trim command, erase, and let's see how much time we can take to do this. I'm expecting this to be as quick as possible, but you gotta follow me on the process to learn all these things. So after I did this first line of the grid, I'm gonna press CO to copy. I'm going to select the grid and I am going to press F8 to activate ortho, and I am going to make an array copy of 10 pieces every 1.2 meters. After that, I am going to select all of these ones. I am going to make a copy of them and I am going to rotate them 90 degrees. After that, I'm gonna press move and I am going to select all these lines and move them from this corner up to this corner. After that, I am going to trim this bit and this bit as well, and I am going to change the line type of these ones to a dashed line. To do so, I'm gonna press LA on the keyboard and I'm going to go to the grid layer, and here on line type I'm going to select, I'm gonna click here on continuous and I am going to load the ISO dash line right here. And as you can see, you can see that the dashing line is slightly small. So to quick fix this, I am going to select all the grids, I am going to type properties and I am going to change the line type scale to 5 or maybe to 15. That is gonna give us a slightly more open gap in between visually. We can always come back and fix this at any point. Okie doke, so each of these modules is 1.2 meters by 1.2 meters, and the first thing that we're going to do is to define the boundary. So for doing that, I'm gonna go to layers and I'm going to create a new layer that is gonna be called boundary. On this boundary layer, I am going to select the continuous line type and then I am going to choose a red color. I am going to click on set as current and I am going to start drafting the boundary of our site. So I'm gonna start right here. I'm gonna go probably somewhere up to there So if this is 1.2 meters, roughly this backyard is probably up to here. And then I am going to type close. So currently the dimension of this is 7 meters and 200, 8 meters and 400. That's roughly the same proportion, but I think we should extend this one more module up to here, so we have a little bit more of space on this part. Right, so the next step that we're going to do is we are going to start by creating the deck area here for the dining table. For doing that, I am going to go back to layers and I am going to create a new layer that is going to be called basic. On this basic layer is where all of our lines are going to sit. And for this basic layer, I'm going to select the white color and a continuous line type. I'm going to click on set current and I am going to start defining the deck area. So the deck area probably should be 3 modules. So I'm gonna go up to here and up to here. And after that, I am going to define the space for the freestanding planter right there. So for doing that, I'm going to create another line, because this is kind of like the exit of the tree. This is gonna be like the exit of the house and the end, this is gonna be the entrance to the house. As you can see, the house is on the back and it has this door right here that comes slightly east part of the deck area. And I am going to draw a circle now here for doing the tree. So the radius of this planter is gonna be 600 millimeters. So the total diameter is 1.2 meters. And that is gonna be the space for the tree. Now, the next step that we're going to do is we're gonna start offsetting all this boundary 300 millimeters so we can add some thicknesses to the walls. So in theory, that's the boundary wall from the east and the boundary wall from the west. Now I am going to draw this door right here, which is the exit of the backyard to the road to the back road right here. So let's draw the door right here on the corner. So I'm gonna go from this point up to this point 150 millimeters. Then I'm gonna go down and then I am going to type offset and I am going to offset 900 millimeters this part of the door up to here. So this is the door that goes to the exit. And then I am going to trim right here, and then I am going to change the properties of these two lines with match properties. I'm going to save the drawing, and after that I am going to start by drawing these planters on the side. So those planters are going to be separated roughly from this line 300 millimeters. So I'm just gonna offset that line 300 from this part up to here, and then I'm gonna delete that line that I did temporary, and then I'm gonna offset 600 millimeters because that's gonna be the width of the planters. So offset these 600 millimeters, and now I am going to go in this module here on the middle to generate just a midpoint, and from this midpoint I'm going to drag the extension up to here, and then I am going to press Ctrl, right click, and I am going to select perpendicular so I can get the perpendicular point right here. After that I am going to trim what I don't need, which is this and this, and also I'm going to make a copy this point from here up to here, and then I am going to move that line 300 millimeters to the north. After that, probably another 300, and after that I am going to press TR for trim, and I am going to trim this bit and this bit right here. Right, now let's split the planter. So just in the middle, I am going to draw this line, and then I am going to create another offset, this time 300 millimeters to the south and 300 millimeters to the north. I'm going to trim this bit right here, and basically we have just drawn the planters, but at the same time that we were drawing them, we put them in the right position. I am going to select all these polylines and I am going to type join, and then I am going to do the same with this one right here. Now I am going to create an offset, so press O in the keyboard, select offset. I am going to make an offset of 15 millimeters from this rectangle up to here, and the same for this one. So we have the planters right now, and now I am going to draw the water feature that goes on the other side of the planters right here. So for doing that, I am gonna go right here. It's exactly the midpoint of the backyard, which is gonna be a nice patio. And I'm going to extend the water feature 300 millimeters, 600 millimeters to the west. And the extent of this water feature is gonna come up to, I am going to drag the extension from here to the wall. So this is gonna be the space for the water feature. Now I think we can make this pot slightly bigger. So I am going to press offset, and I am going to offset that pot 150 millimeters. So the total radio, if you select the circle and press properties, it is 1.5 meters for the total diameter. I am going to delete the inner circle, and then I am going to move these three 600 millimeters to the south, so it sits right there. And I am going to separate it from the wall just 300 millimeters, so the tree has a little bit more of a space on all this area next to the wall and the house. Probably I can move it another 300 millimeters, so it sits perfectly a little bit there in the center of that square. Now I am going to delete this line because we don't need it. I am going to start drawing the entrance and the windows to the house. So for doing that, I am going to select this endpoint, and I am going to create an extension of 300 millimeters, and then I am gonna go north. Then I'm gonna type trim, and I am going to trim this bit right here. I am going to match the properties with match properties from this red up to this red, and then on here I am also gonna drag the extension 300 millimeters, and I am gonna go north. I am going to repeat the same process of trimming this bit, and then MA to match the properties from this red up to here. Now I am going to indicatively. I am going to draw indicatively the window right here. So press PL from polyline, and this is gonna represent the window of the house, which is this window right here. And after that, I am going to select the space for the door. For the door, we are going to offset. We are going to offset 300 millimeters this line right here. Now we are going to create a door that is going to be 900 millimeters. For doing that, I am going to type 900 offset again. I am going to offset this up to here. Probably this door should be slightly bigger. I think a decent door of 1.2 meters will be nice for this scenario. So I am gonna move this up to here, and then I am going to offset 300 millimeters this red line up to here. So this is where the column of the house goes. And for creating the window, in theory, behind this tree is the kitchen of the house. So let's draw another polyline right here, and let's offset that polyline 300 millimeters to the west. Right, so let's match the properties. MA on the keyboard. From this red, I want this to be red, then delete this right here, and I am going to draw the window of the kitchen. So this is the window of the kitchen, the window of the living room, and this is the door in the middle to access the back garden. Now I'm gonna draw just indicatively the glass of the windows. For doing that, I am going to do offset. I am going to press 5, so I can offset 5 millimeters to the south, 5 millimeters to the north, and the same with this other window. I'm gonna delete the line in the middle. I am going to delete the line in the middle here as well. And for the door, I am going to offset the door 25 millimeters to the south and 25 millimeters to the north, and also I am going to delete this line in the middle. Right, so here we have the window that goes to the living room, we have the door, and here we have the window of the kitchen with a nice tree right here. I am going to offset 50 millimeters this circle right here to create the edge of the planter, and also I am going to offset 150 millimeters the water feature to create all the channel where the water is going to be collected from this feature wall right here. And finally I'm gonna draw the door right here. So for doing that, it will be another polyline, and then press offset and offset that polyline 50 millimeters, offset that polyline 25 millimeters to the north and 25 millimeters to the south. Then we can delete this line in the middle, and now we can start drawing how the doors are going to open. So for doing that, I'm going to create a new layer, and this layer is going to be called projections. So these projections are going to go in this yellow color, and I am going to make them current. So the door is gonna open like this. Let's position in the midpoint of the column, and let's drag a circle up to here. Let's do that again. Circle from this point up to this point, and now let's trim this bit right here and also this bit right here. We can delete that part, and then we can create another polyline from this point up to this point. Now we're gonna do the same with this door, and for doing that I'm gonna press C for circle again, and I'm going to draw a circle from this point up to this point. And now I'm going to draw a polyline from this point up to this point. Press TR for trim, and let's trim what we don't need. So I'm gonna trim all these bits. We can delete this bit right here, and we now have the doors, we have the water feature, we have the planters. The next step is going to be to draw the deck area on this bit, and also we're gonna have deck on the side of the deck area right here on this corner. So for doing that, first I'm gonna draw another line, polyline, from this point up to this point. I am going to match the properties because I forgot to change layers, so match the properties from here to here. And now I am going to move this 100 millimeters to the west part, so that's gonna be deck area. And now if you want to change layers, you can go here and click on the layer that you want, but another way of doing it is if you click this command that says make current. So if you click here and then select the layer that you want to use, it's gonna change it automatically, which is slightly quicker when you're drafting things fast. Now the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to draw the deck. So for doing that, I am going to offset this deck 100 millimeters because that's gonna be the width of our deck board. And now I am going to create here this line like that, so we have two deck boards that intersect in a nice corner. I'm going to trim this because I don't need it, and now I am going to create a rectangle. So type rec for rectangle, and from this point I am going to drag an extension to the north of 100 millimeters, enter, and then my next point is going to be right here. Now, to make this a little bit more detailed, I am going to move this deck board 10 millimeters to the north to create the real gap in between the boards. On this part, I am going to do the same to the west, so 10 millimeters, and of course I am also going to do it right here, 10 millimeters to the east, so here we have a nice board that comes all across. This bit right here doesn't have this corner because that's going to be a vertical wall of deck, like here. So let's create an array copy of this board, and for doing that I just press copy, and then I'm gonna drag the extension from this point up to here, and then I'm gonna press array. Let's estimate that we will need about 35 copies, and I'm gonna put the next point right here. Oh, nearly there. So we don't need this one, we don't need this one, and we don't need that one. And this board can be adjusted up to the wall. So here I want to drag the board from this point up to the wall, but as you can see it's a bit tricky because you don't have the snapping point. So what you can do is control right click and select perpendicular, and that's gonna give you the point right here. So click there, and then because that board is gonna be a bespoke board, go down again 10 millimeters, and there we go, we have all the deck boards right here. Now we're gonna do this feature on the paving right here that is like a circular brick area in front of the water feature, and for doing that I'm gonna take as a reference point this point right here. This is gonna be like the circle, the center of the circle, and all the paving is gonna extend on this area. So the next steps is to create the brick paving that is gonna be on the floor. So for doing that, I am going to type a rectangle, and I am going to say that this brick paving it's gonna be roughly 150 millimeters to the X, comma, by 75. So that's a standard small size of a brick. And now I am going to create an array on this circle, but before doing that I am going to offset this circle 200 millimeters to the inside, then 200 millimeters to the inside, 200 millimeters to the inside, and 200 millimeters to the inside. And now I'm going to move this brick from this point up to here, and I am going to tap array. But before typing on the array, I'm going to make a safe copy of this one, just right here. So for doing our polar array, I am going to start by creating a copy of this brick right here. And now I am going to select it from exactly the center point of the brick, and I am going to paste it on our first, not in our first one, but on the second ring right here. The rings are just for reference because we are going to control the array inside the array modifier. You will see it now. So let's press array, and now select the brick, enter, and here click on polar. Then specify the center of the polar array, which is going to be right here, and now it's telling us how many items are in that circle. So we're going to swap that for 5. Sorry, we're going to swap that for 15. I think we can fit a bit more, maybe 30, probably 35 items. Maybe we can squeeze 40. That's too many. Let's squeeze 35 bricks right there. On this part right here where it says row, we can increase to 2 rows, so it will add an extra row, and now we can increase the distance in between the rows. So currently is 112 millimeters. If we put this to 160, it's gonna make it perfect space for the next one. And then we could increase by 3 rows and then 4 rows. But the only problem with this is that the array is respecting the same number of bricks. and we don't want that because we want more bricks on the second ring and more bricks on the other ring. So we're gonna do it manually. We're gonna let only one row. We're gonna close that array, and then we're gonna move in our second one. So for the second brick, I'm gonna again select it from the center, and I am going to paste it right here, and I am going to type array again. I am going to select the brick, enter, pull array from this center point, and I am going to increase the items to probably 50. So I think that looks good, and probably we can do 55. Let's try it. 55 bricks, please. Maybe 60. 60 is too many. Let's type 50 bricks. Yeah, 50 looks good. And now I am gonna do it one more time. I am gonna select another brick, and I am gonna get it from the center, from this point up to here. And now I am going to select array. I am going to click on the brick, enter, pull array from the center, and for this one we're gonna have maybe 60 bricks. Yeah, that looks good, and that's it. We have our brick feature. Now I can delete this circle that I don't need. I can delete this circle that I don't need, and also this one. And then the center of the brick area is gonna be a nice big slab stone. So I am going to offset that 100 millimeters, and probably like that. And I am going to delete these two other circles. So we have a nice brick feature paving on the center of the water feature. Now I am going to delete these two bricks. Right, so let's analyze how things are looking. For doing that, I'm just gonna save first. And we have the deck area. We have the pot for the tree right here. We have the bricks. We have these two freestanding planter, and now we're gonna do these three other planters. For doing that, I am going to do a circle right here, and these planters are going to be 300 millimeters on radius. Then I am going to create a copy of this one, 600 millimeters, and it's gonna go probably another 100 millimeters. And this one I am going to scale it 0.75, so this planter is slightly smaller than the other one. And then this one I am going to move it. I am going to create a copy, and I am going to create a copy of this other one from this point. I'm gonna press F8 on the keyboard to deactivate ortho, and I'm going to place it somewhere here. It's always nice to have pots in arrangements of tree because it gives you a good visual impact, and also really well with the planting arrangement. So I'm going to move these three pots to here, and I'm going to rotate them from this point, probably something like that. Basically what I want is that all these three pots as a single sit on this grid right here, so we have proportion across the design. And now I am going to offset 50 millimeters those planters to create a little bit of depth. This one is going to be slightly bigger, so I'm going to offset it to the other side, and we have three different sizes of pots right here. Okay, things are looking good. I think this is time for starting to drop all the furniture and the plantings. For doing that, I have this file that is called Patio Blocks. If you are interested in getting these blocks for free, go to the link on the description and you can download them for free. Go to the link on the description and you can download them for free from my Patreon. Feel free to use them in your projects. These are blocks that I created myself a long time ago. So I'm gonna copy the first tree, Ctrl C, and I'm gonna bring it to our patio design. And I'm gonna plant that tree just right there in the middle of the pot. To make sure it's planted on the center, I am going to move the block from the center to the center of the planter. I'm going to go back to the patio blocks file, And I am going to bring these other, this one, and this one as well. Control C, and I'm gonna put them right here. So I'm gonna move this first plant from here up to here. I'm intending this to be lavender. Then we will have a little bit of rosemary as well, so it's nice to have those herbs in your garden. And I'm going to scale it a little bit so it fits better on the pot that we just designed right there. And then this other one can be some ornamental flowers. So I am going to move it from this point up to here, and I am going to scale it just to fit on the pot like that. Alright, so then for the bamboo on the side, I am going to use this block, and I am going to scale that block just a little bit so it fits well on the planter, and I am going to rotate it 90 degrees. Press F8 to rotate it, and then move it from this point up to, press F8 again to get rid of the ortho. We're gonna create one copy here, and then copy again from this point up to here. To give it a little bit more of realism, I am going to scale this one just a touch. I'm gonna press F3 to deactivate the snaps, and I'm gonna scale it just a little bit slightly bigger so it looks slightly different. And now we're gonna move the table from this point up to here to make sure it's perfectly on the center of the deck area. I am going to trace a line from this point up to this point, and I am going to move the dining table exactly from the center up to the center of the line. I am going to delete this line that I just created by reference, and I am going to start trimming all the deck area. Before I start trimming, I am going to switch off the grid layer so it doesn't disturb our operation. To do that, I am going to press the command lay off, which is basically switching off the layer, and I am going to just switch it off. Then I'm going to go back to trim command, and I am going to start trimming inside the table. Now I am going to trim here on the chairs, and I am also going to trim right here and right here. I am going to repeat the same process here with the other chair, and also in this small bit, and in this small bit as well. You can let, yeah, we need to trim here. We need to trim there as well, but to do that I need to create a line because the block doesn't let me to trim. So I can click here and here, then we can delete what we don't need, and I am going to repeat the same process with the other chairs. And also right here, trim, 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 and trim, and trim. So as you can see, the patio is starting to look nice. We now have all the features, and now it's time to move into the elevations. So for doing the elevations, we're gonna first start with the house elevation right here, and for doing that I am going just to draw a line from this point up to this point. Press F8 to activate the ortho. Now I am going to start by drawing these the windows and the doors. So let's drag a line from this point up to here. Now let's press copy, and let's copy the line from this point up to this point to get the width of the window of the living room. Then copy it here to get the column, and also here and here to get the other column as well, and also here and one more here. Now let's trim all of these that we don't need it. So usually the doors are 2 meters and 20 centimeters tall, so let's create an offset of 2200 millimeters from this point up to this point. So this is gonna be the width door of the access, and to indicate the door opening I I'm just gonna select polyline, and I am going to draw a line from this point up to here. The only reason I did this is to get this midpoint. I am going to draw another line up to here, so I get this midpoint as well, and then I am going to draw a line from here up to here. So basically I just draw these lines as a guide to get this point, but you could also have trimmed this and then get the midpoint of the remaining. And now let's do the other window right here. So for doing that other window, I am going to go up right here 150 millimeters, and then let's draw the frame. For doing the frame, I am going to do a rectangle from this point up to this point, and then I am going to offset 50 millimeters to get the thickness of the frame of the window, which we can also draw here with a rectangle. So let's go 50 millimeters and another 50 millimeters to that point, and then we can copy that frame from this point up to this point right here. Then we can trim what we don't need, just to indicate the frame of the window. And we can divide this window in probably different glass panels, so we need a copy just here in the middle. And for getting that midpoint without doing much, I am going to draw another polyline from this corner up to this corner, and then I can copy the center line from this midpoint to this new midpoint that we just created. To get the other one, instead of doing the same, I am just going to use mirror command, type mirror, and I am going to select this line and then right click, and from this point I want to mirror it to this point. Do you want to erase the source object? No, we want to keep both of them. Now let's delete this line that was just a guide, and then we have the window of the house, which is this one right here. Now we're gonna do a similar process with the window of the kitchen. So the window of the kitchen is not up to the floor, this one is slightly higher. So I am going to draw an extension of about a meter height, so it's gonna be 1000, and up to here. And then on here I am going to trim this bit that I don't need. I am also going to trim this other bit right here, and I also want to trim here and here. I can also take the chance to trim here that I don't need it, and also here. And this is separate lines, so I am going to select all of them, and I am going to type join command. After I joined all of them, I am going to type offset and 50 millimeters as well to be proportional with the other frame. So let's offset this 50 millimeters, and this is gonna be only 2 glass windows, but because this is the kitchen and these windows open, I am going to offset 50 millimeters to this side. And let's pretend that the windows of the house. So I am going to offset this frame 25 millimeters to the east and 25 millimeters to here. So we have the windows of the kitchen. Let's pretend that the windows is slightly open, so we can go here, and then offset this also 50 millimeters, so someone is having the window open through that gap. Or maybe not. Right, we're gonna quickly draw the up part of the house. So for doing that, I am going to offset the ground line 6 meters from this point up to here. That's gonna be the height of the house. And then I am going to add another 3 meters for the roof, which basically is gonna come up to here. And I'm going to extend this bit right here and this bit right here. Today we are focusing on the landscape, so I'm not gonna put too much detail into the house, it's just to show the elevation. And for the window in the other room is gonna be, let's tweak a little bit this sketch to make it better. And it's gonna be a similar size of this one, so let's click offset and create an offset of 3 meters, offset 3 meters. And this offset of 3 meters is gonna go from this point up to this point, And then from here I am going to offset 1 more meter, so the window of the room doesn't come exactly up to the floor. And then from this point, usually windows are 300 mil below the top level, so I'm gonna draw my rectangle from this point up to here, and from there I am going to offset 50 millimeters to get the frame of the window. Now I can let's trim this and let's delete this, so we can have all the modulation ready. And here I'm just gonna draw a small window, pretending that that's where the toilet of the house is. So drawing the extension and the same alignment of the downstairs window, I am just gonna quickly create a rectangle and an offset to represent the window of the toilet. Now we can delete all of these that we don't need. We can delete trim here as well, and we can delete there as well. Right, so we have quickly drawn the facade of the house that shows the elevation that I promised at the beginning of the video. We have 1 of the 4 elevations. We were gonna carry on. Let's keep working. So for this so we need to extend this bit of the wall, and it comes up to there. That's gonna be the wall, and we can trim here, and the same is going to happen for the other side right here. Right, and let's extend this line right here, and also let's extend it. Let's extend that line, and let's create an offset of 300. Sorry, and let's extend this one as well. Trim this bit, and now let's trim that. Let's trim here as well, and here as well. We can extend this again and extend this, and then we have the wall. Probably the wall of the garden is lower, so in theory we should bring the walls 3 meters only. So the walls, so these boundary walls are gonna be 2.5 meters tall. So for doing that, I am going to offset 2,500 at the ground level, and then I am going to just quickly trim right here and right here. So these two are these red walls. I am also gonna trim this bit right. I am also gonna delete that, and for the window of the room, I am just going to do a double window, offset 25 millimeters from this point up to here, and 25 millimeters to here. So I think that covers this. Maybe we can add the frame of the door as well. For doing that, I am going to join all of these lines, and then press offset 50 millimeters from this point up to this point, and then we can tweak this corner up to here, and also we're gonna move this up to here and this up to here, right here. So we have this facade right now. I am going to move the whole thing a little bit to the right to have more space here, and now we're gonna start adding the landscape features. So for the table, I have this chair right here. I am going to copy the chair, and I am going to paste it right here, and I am going to draw quickly a line from this point up to here, and another one from the back part, just to reference the chair. So I'm gonna move the chair up to there. Now I am going to move it from this point up to here where the deck is going to be. Now I am going to create a mirror of this chair, exactly from the midpoint of the chair, and I'm gonna create the mirror copy. I don't want to delete the source object. And now we're gonna draw the table right here. So for the table, I am gonna quickly manually draw it. I'm going to select this gray layer, H Hardware's Furniture Blocks, and I am going to draw from this center a line up to here, and then from this point I am going to drag another line to make sure I am drawing it with the same dimensions that I'm showing on the plan view. So extend your line up to here, then go up right here, and here I'm going to draw a rectangle. The rectangle is going to be 50 millimeters because that's going to be the thickness of the table up to this point, and this is a very tall table, so I need to move it down from this point up to here. So usually tables are about 700 millimeters tall, so let's type 700 right here, and I'm gonna move the cover of the table up to that point right here. And now I'm going to delete all of these that I don't need it, and the table is gonna have, I'm gonna delete that as well. The table is going to have the structure of 25 millimeters up to here, 25 millimeters up to here, and I'm gonna delete the line in the middle. I am going to do the basement. For the basement, I am going to draw a line of about 800 millimeters. I am going to move this basement line to the midpoint, and then I am going to offset it 25 millimeters. So roughly we have a nice table right there. I'm going to close here, and also I am going to close right here, and I am going to select all of these, and I am going to join it together. And now it's time to do a little bit of trimming. Let's go back to the trim command, and let's trim the glass here, also here, a little bit here on the chair, and also this bit right here. We can also trim the structure of the table, and we can trim the chair as well, so that gives us a better looking of the elevation. Now it's time to bring the tree. So for bringing the tree, I am going to manually draw this pot, and for doing that I am going to copy this circle from this point up to this point right here, so I can get the width. And now I am going to draw a line from here up to here, and then I am going to press trim to trim that bit. I don't need the circle anymore. And now usually these pots are like 400 mil tall, and for this case I'm gonna make it 500 because we need a lot of depth on the soil for the tree to be realistic. Actually 600 will be better, so I'm gonna type 600, and I'm gonna come up to here and then up to here. I am going to join all of these together, and I am going to move it from this point up to here. Now we're gonna do a nice detail on this pot, so I am gonna push it up another 50 millimeters, and then I am going to draw another line right here from this point up to this point, 50 millimeters, and then I'm gonna go down another 50, and then I'm gonna come up to here, get the extension, come up to this point, and then move from this midpoint to the right another 50 millimeters. That's gonna create that little edge on the bottom of the planter to be more realistic. And because that's already in the right position, I am going to trim what I don't see on the elevation, which is gonna be basically that bit of the frame of the door, and also this right here. Yeah, so this is where we are. It's time to plant the tree. For planting the tree, I am going to go back to the patio blocks. Like I said before, you can get these blocks for free on my Patreon. The link is in the description. And I am going to select the tree, and I am going to press Ctrl C. I am going to go back to the patio design, and press Ctrl V right here. So roughly the canopy of the tree, let's overlap it, is about the same size. It slightly needs to be bigger just to match the proportions. So press SC on the keyboard for scale, select the tree and scale it from this point just to match roughly the width of the plan view tree. And now that is similar, select it from this point and then move it and plant it here on the pot. Right, so we are having now the tree with the dining room. It's looking good. I think it's time to trim the window, and also we don't need this line. I just realized. Oh, Ctrl C to go back. We need it for the top of the wall. So let's press trim, and let's trim what is not visible behind the tree. So we can trim right here. We can also trim here, and trim here, and also trim here. And then we can delete all of this. In theory, you will be able to see a little bit through the leaves of the tree, but in this case, I think it looks better like that. And also we can start to trim a little bit here the door, so we can create another cut here, another cut here, and another cut here. So that hides all the frame behind those leaves. Press trim again, and let's trim this line here. So this is how it's looking. I think we can start to do now the second elevation right here. To do this, I am going to quickly show you how you can do some techniques to do it quickly. One way of doing it will be to rotate the model space like that and then start drafting on this way. But to save my time, and because I said at the beginning that we want to do this as quickly as possible, what I'm gonna do is I am going to select all of this. I am going to create a copy, and I'm gonna paste this copy right here. And after that, I am going to select it all over again, and I am going to block it. So when you block it, this is gonna be plan, block, enter. This plan block is now a single unit. Now if you just select a little bit, it's gonna select all of it, which is really handy because now we can rotate it 90 degrees and we don't need to be selecting all together. We can just select something and it's a block. Now I'm gonna move this up to here. Now I'm gonna align it with this one just to drawing comfortably on the same place. I'm gonna go back to my layer, which is this white basic layer, and I am going to start projecting all these lines from the side, similar as we did in our previous elevation. Now I am going to press copy, and I am going to copy this line from this point, not to here but to the extension, and also here where the water feature is, also right here for the bottom part, and also right here from the other bottom part. Also, I am going to make a copy right here in the center of the planter, and we are going to start with the planter. So we are going to imagine that our elevation is cutting through here, so we get to see a little bit of the tree, but without showing all the deck on this one. And then on the other one, we're gonna show the deck. So because I already have this tree, I am going to copy the pot from this point in the middle up to here, because it's exactly the same tree and the same pot. And I am going to draw the ground level. To draw the ground level, I'm going to do a line from the corner of the planter to the wall and then up to the other wall right here. I forgot to copy this line also from this point up to this point, so we have exactly what is gonna be the east wall elevation. And as you can see, we previously defined the height of that wall, so we're gonna drag the projection of this line from here up to here, and then we're gonna extend it all the way across. Now I am going to press trim, and I am going to trim here, I am going to trim here, and I'm going to trim all of this because I don't need it. And also I am going to trim here on the top, here on the top, here on the top, and also right here. For the house, we can just draw a little bit of the house on this elevation. So I am going to project the roof up to here, and then I am going to draw just 2 meters of the house to, oh, that was 200. So go back, then project the line from the roof, and then it's gonna be 2000 millimeters just to show a little bit of the roof. Then I'm gonna do the same right here. That's the house that is sitting on the left part side of the patio. Now we can move this line from this point up to this point, and we are starting to see something. I think this is time to apply the trim command again and start trimming what you cannot see behind this tree. And also we can delete now these 2 lines because we don't need them. Okay, so it's time now to do the bottom part of the water feature that collects all the water. So for doing that, I'm gonna go 150 millimeters high, and I am going to draw a line across here. I am going to trim the sides of this, and also I am going to trim here, and I am going to trim right here. So we have all the water feature wall that drops the water into this small container on the floor. I'd like to add a gallery on the top with a little bit of illumination, like if it was like a steel beam that provides an indirect illumination to the back garden. So for doing that, I am going to do an offset of this line, and that gallery is also going to be 150 millimeters tall. So I'm going to offset the gallery right there, and the water feature will come under the lighting gallery. So I need to offset this one right here as well, and I can extend it up to there just to touch the tree, and I can trim this bit right here. The gallery only comes up to here, and there we go, we have the elevation right there. I think it would be nice to add a little bit of people right there. So for doing that, I'm gonna go to my blocks, and I am going to copy this person right here, and I am going to paste it right here so we can have a sense of the dimensions and a sense of the space. Having human scales in your drawings always makes them to feel alive, because you can feel the proportions, you can feel how big is the space. So always put human figures on your drawings. We're gonna move now to the west elevation of the patio. For doing that, I am going to copy this block that I had before. I am going to press rotate command. I am going to select all of the block, and then from any point I am just going to rotate it 180 degrees. Press enter. Now I am going to align it with the other one right. So we have the block aligned, and I am going to start to do a very similar process. So because we already draw some of the elevations, everything is becoming easier because we can use the same information that we used before on these ones. And for doing that, I am going to select all of these, and I am going to create a copy from this point up to here. And now I am going to type mirror command. I am going to select all of this, and I am going to mirror it. And this time I am going to press yes because I want to erase the source object. Press yes. And now let's get all of this and move it from this point up to this point. Now this bit is missing because on here we trim for the tree, but now we can use extend command. So press EX to get extend, and we want to extend these 2 lines up to the house. Let's press save because I haven't saved in a while. And now let's extend this line from this point up to here. We're gonna start by adding the step on the deck. So for doing that, I am going to drag a line from this point up to here, and I am going to go 150 millimeters to the north, and then I'm gonna go to the right, and there we go, we have here the deck. Now, as you can see, we already draw the table right there, and it's gonna be exactly the same table. But before copying the table, do you remember we have also deck on this part? So I am going to draw that deck. So for drawing that deck, I am gonna go like this, and first we're gonna have a board that's gonna start from the top right here. So I'm gonna go 100 millimeters, and those 100 millimeters I'm gonna come up to here. I'm gonna move it 10 millimeters under the lighting gallery, so we have a little bit of realistic effect. And then from the house, I am also gonna put it 10 millimeters to the west, to the left. Now I'm gonna make a copy array, select copy, and I am going to click on this deck board, and I am going to make the copy base point from the extension right here. And from that point, I'm gonna press A for array, and I believe that probably 30 copies will be enough. So 30 copies were too much. Let's delete what we don't need. We don't need that one. And that was a big coincidence because the deck is just sitting perfect there. So this last board, we're gonna push it manually up from this point, just 10 millimeters. So we now have all the deck wall like I drew on the original sketch. Now it's time to draw these planters right here. For doing that planters, I'm gonna do a similar approach as these ones, but these ones are gonna be quite smaller. So I am gonna copy these from this point up to here, just to get the proportions. And now I am going to center the planter from this point up to the center of the planter in the top view. And now I am going to extend up to here, and I am going to extend this up to here as well. These planters are not gonna be 600 millimeters tall like the other ones, so I'm gonna push it down 100 millimeters because those are gonna be lower. And then for this one, I am going to delete it and create a new basement from this point up to this point, then match the properties from this layer up to this layer, and I am going to create the inset effect. So let's push this 50 millimeters so we have that nice inset edge, and the same right here on the other side, 50 millimeters. Now I'm gonna create a copy of that planter to the other planter, which basically is gonna be this one from this point up to this point right here. And I am going to start planting the bamboo on that elevation. For doing that, we're gonna go to our patio blocks. Like I already said before, these blocks are free on my Patreon. Ctrl C, and now go back to the CAD file design, and I am going to paste the bamboo right here. I think it looks really good. We are gonna create a copy for the other one, and each planter is gonna have 2 bamboos, something like that. And let's move it a little bit to the right, and this one, let's move it a little bit to the right. This one is gonna be slightly smaller, so we have a little bit of variation. Scale it up to probably, I use desactivated ortho so I can scale more comfortably, and you can also deactivate the all snap, so wherever you click, it's not gonna snap to anything. So use a slightly smaller, and then this one is gonna be from this point also slightly smaller like that, and this one is gonna be slightly smaller. So we have a little bit of variation in the 3 of them. Another thing that we could do is that we could mirror this one from this point up to here. Press F8 to get a nice mirror. Delete the source object, and then let's move this one from here to here so it looks slightly different and it creates a little bit of game. Of course that you can use different blocks and different plantings items, but for this case I think it looks good. The next thing that we're going to do is we're gonna place the table again. We already have it here, so I am going to copy it from this part. So I am going to copy it from here and I'm gonna move it here. I'm gonna delete these bits and I am going to block the whole thing, so when I move it, it moves as a single thing. So select all of it and block it as a table and 2 chairs. And then I am going to move it from the midpoint right here, activate the O snaps with F3 off to the center of here, and then I am going to move it up from this point up to the deck right here. Now because we are on the oh, what happened here? So as you can see, the table is not seated on the right location and I just spotted that. So we can fix it by moving this table from this point up to here, and then we can trim here and extend the glass here, so that fixes that problem on that elevation. And here we can explode the block that we blocked before and move the chair up from this point up to that point, and the same here from here up to here. Right, so now it's time to trim. Let's trim everything that is not where the chairs are, so we have a better effect while looking at the elevation. And let's trim here as well, and a little bit here too. Now let's trim here on the table structure, and let's trim right here as well. We're gonna do the same with the other chair, with the legs of the chair, and here with the other leg as well. So I think it's looking nice. Now for enhancing a little bit the overall aspect of this elevation, all these boards we are going to select similar. Right, I think it's looking really good. So now let's go and let's create a copy of the human scale from this point up to this point. So we have someone that is thinking to maybe have a seat on this beautiful, get the extension, and now let's trim all the deck that is inside of the person so it looks a bit more real. Right, so we have that person. And another thing that we could do to enhance is to start hatching, but we're gonna do that till the end. Hatches are gonna come till the end. So let's go for the final elevation. The final elevation is slightly more simple. So let's create another copy of this and let's put it right here. Now let's rotate this 90 degrees and let's align it this bit right here, and I think we can just accommodate this slightly better. So let's start by projecting the ground floor. Now let's project the top of the wall right here, and now let's close by doing these lines on the extremes. We also need to show the thickness of the boundary wall, so we're gonna go up to here. And now we are going to press trim command to delete all the things that we don't need, which are basically all these lines. Now we're gonna draw, oh, we don't need this one either. Now we're gonna draw the door. So the door is gonna be like that, then from this point up to this point, then create another polyline from here up to here, and then press move, select that line. And we're gonna move that line roughly, I think 2 meters and 10 centimeters, 2100 millimeters will be good. Now press trim, trim here, trim here, trim here as well, and also trim here. And let's create the frame of that door. The frame of that door is gonna be 50 millimeters, and it's gonna be something like that. Now let's trim right here, and we are gonna indicate that that door opens like this with the projection layer. We can swap this yellow color, we can match the properties from this yellow color to here, and also to here, just to indicate that that is the opening of the door. Now we're gonna do these little planters right here, and for doing that I am going to copy, I'm going to explode this block, and I am going to copy these two circles from, actually I'm going to copy all of them. I'm going to copy this circle, I'm going to copy this circle, and this circle all the way across here. And now I am going to start drafting lines from that point up to here, and then from here up to here, get the center again, drag the extension, go down, and we're gonna do the same right here. And you will see why I'm doing this shortly. So drag to the extension, and there we go. Now let's trim this bit right here. So the biggest planter is this one on the far end, which is this one, and that planter is gonna be 900. No, that's too much. Let's go for the same height as these main planters. So let's extend the level, and that one is gonna be our first planter. So trim here, trim here, trim here, trim here, and now we don't need this circle and we don't need this line. Now let's go for the second biggest taller planter, which is gonna be this one, and that planter is gonna be the same height as the bamboo planters. So let's drag the line from this point off to this point, and let's trim here, let's trim here, delete the circle because we don't need it, and also trim here and trim here. Right, now we can delete this, we can delete that. Let's go for the smaller planter, which is this one right here, and that one is gonna be 300 millimeters. That one is gonna be 200 millimeters shorter than the other one. So offset this one 200 millimeters, and then let's extend this, and let's trim on here, let's trim on here as well, and also this bit. So we have now the 3 planters on the elevation. We have the middle planter, which is this one, the planter on the far end, and this one right here. Now let's start by deleting what in theory is not visible if we cut a section from here. So this one wouldn't be visible because that's a bigger planter, and then this one wouldn't be visible either. Now let's add that effect of the inset on this planter. So I'm gonna go 50 millimeters and then go up to here. Then I am going to trim this bit right here, and I am going to create a new line exactly in the same place, but now we can move it to the west 50 millimeters. So we have that effect as we did in the other planters. And I'm gonna do exactly the same thing with the next one, and I'm gonna copy it from this point up to this point, and I am going to trim right here. Then I am going to create a new line up to here, so we have that effect on this one, but this line needs to come up to here. Then press mirror, and I am going to mirror this line from this midpoint. I don't want to reach the source object, and now I can trim here as well. Now the other planter, I need again the edge because I don't remember where it finishes, so it comes up to here. We have plenty of space, so the inset is not visible on that one, but we can extend this line. Now we can trim here on the bottom. Let's press save because I haven't saved in a while. Now press polyline again, and let's draw a polyline from this point up to this point, and let's move this line 50 millimeters. So we have all these 3 planters now. Now let's draw this plant. Let's draw this planter here as well. So for doing that, I am going to draw a line up to this point right here, and then I'm going to drag the extension from this point, and then I'm gonna go here, right, and I'm gonna go here as well. I am going to copy the same approach we did here for the inset. So for doing that, I am going to drag the extension up to this point, and now copy this small line from this corner up to this corner, and from the small planter we're going to borrow this little line from this point up to here. And now we can press trim, and we can trim this bit that we don't need and that other bit. Now we're going to use the clumping bamboo in elevation. So for doing that, I'm going to borrow this block right here, and I am going to paste it right here. I am going to explode it, and I am going to delete half of it, probably something like that. And then we can roughly select something like this to create a nice effect. A little bit more, get out of this, get rid of this, so that's fine. And then we can block it, probably can squeeze. Oh, that looks horrible. Maybe something like that. And then we're gonna block it again. This is gonna be called half bamboo, enter. And now let's move our bamboo from this point up to this point right here. Now let's move it a little bit to the right. That's looking good. And now we're gonna plant these pots right here with the patio blocks. Like I already said quite a few times, these blocks are free on my Patreon, the full file with the template. And let's bring these 3 plants. So Ctrl C, and let's bring it up to here. And let's move the big one right here. Maybe that looks good actually. That size looks fine. Then the flowers are gonna be in the smaller planter. And then the lavender is gonna be right here. So I think it's looking really good. So now we have this elevation, and this elevation. The next step that we're going to do is we're gonna put everything together and start to annotate very simple our drawing. So I am going to delete all of these that we use it for reference, and I am going to start putting these together. So this elevation is gonna go right here, and then I'm gonna put it right here, move it from this point up to this point, and then I'm gonna move this one from here, press F8 to deactivate ortho. I am gonna put it right. Okay, so we have the front elevation, we have the south elevation, we have the west elevation, and the east elevation. So our patio is coming nearly to completion. In the final touches, we're going to start to tweaking a little bit the overall aspect of the colors. We're going to start to add some hatches, and that's it. Let's carry on. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to split the deck layer. So for doing that, I'm going to quickly turn off, lay off this block of the table. I am also going to switch off this and this. So basically I can quickly select all of the deck quickly. So I'm gonna go to layers, and I'm gonna create a new layer that is gonna be called deck. This deck layer is gonna have this cream color right here, probably this one, this 41, I like it, and I'm gonna make it current, and I am going to then select a polyline. I am going to match the properties of that to all the deck in that nice yellow color. And I'm gonna do the same to all of this. For doing that, before I am gonna lay off the human block so it doesn't disturb us on the way. I'm going now to match the properties from here up to here, so that's looking good. Then I can delete that line, and I am gonna press lay on to see how this affects the overall image. Oh, as you can see, we move everything without moving the grid, but that's not a problem. We can click on one line, select similar, and then just place the grid. Oh, move. So select the grid, select similar, and then place the grid back in the original place. We can switch it on, we can switch it off again. The next thing that we're going to do is that we are going to create a different layer for the brick area. So I'm going to go back to layers, and I'm going to create a layer that is going to be called bricks paving. On this bricks paving, I'm going to choose a slightly more light color, for example this 254, and I am going to make it current, and I am going to draw a polyline, and then I am going to match the properties to all this brick. As you can see, it still looks very bright, so I'm going to go to layers. I'm going to put this here on the side to see how it affects the color, and maybe something that is slightly darker like this will look good. Let me see if it's on the right layer. So select this. Yeah, it's on the right layer. Oh, but the bricks are not. So let's explode all the array. So it's static now. Let's select all of it and put it on the new bricks layer. So where is the bricks layer? Bricks paving. Now let's change the color back to this darkened gray. Okay, it's starting to look better, the overall appearance of this. And now I am going to add a hatch on the main paving area. For doing that, I am gonna freeze this planting layer, and I am going to create a new layer that is gonna be called general hatches. In this general hatches color layer, we're going to start hatching most of the things in our plan. So press hatch, H on the keyboard, and we're going to start first with the overall paving. As you can see, it's hatching without that bit, so I'm going to delete it again and switch off the layer of the projection so the hatch can extend up to the edge of the house. So press hatch, and now click here, that's alright. And now I am going to change the appearance of that hatch to be a sandstone paving, probably something that looks like this. I think I like that herringbone pattern, but it may be that the scale is not right. Actually, probably we should use something different. Let's use this type of hatch, but let's scale it 10 times. So no, that's too big. Let's put maybe 4. So for the main area, we're gonna use a sand hatch, which is just basically like resin bound or something like. I want to represent like a resin bound hatch, and I'm gonna make it slightly more open, probably with a 10 scale, so we have that nice effect. And I'm gonna change the color of this one to be a little bit more like cream color. So for doing that, I'm gonna go to color blocks, and I'm going to select color that looks like. I think that looks really nice. We are going to start hatching the rest of the areas. So I'm gonna go back to the layers, press lay on, and this is how it's looking at the moment. I am going to unfreeze the planting, and I'm gonna close the layers. So go back, unfreeze this. Let's start by adding a hatch of bricks on the house. So press hatch again, and I want to hatch this bit right here. As you can see, the hatch is coming inside the here, and we don't want that, so let's do it again. Hatch, that's better. And also I want to hatch this bit right here, which is part, oh, Ctrl C. We can hatch it later. So first we can do this one. Let's go to the bricks and let's select these bricks right here. And then let's change the scale to 1, maybe to 0.5, so it's a real size of brick. And I think that gray tone looks and works quite well. As you can see, it's hatching inside the window, which is annoying, and probably we can do it again. So let's press hatch again. Sometimes that's a bug of AutoCAD and you need to wait a little bit there until it loads everything. As you can see, this time it did it right. And now let's change the scale to 0.5. Now let's hatch this bit right here as well, because this is also brick. Come back. This bit, as you can see, it's open in that bit, and that's why it's extending up to here. So we can do a small trick for doing that. We can just extend that line to close that gap, and then we can press hatch again and do it like that. And now we can match the properties from this brick up to this brick, so that gives us a little bit more of realism. And then we can also trim this part of the frame so it's like better. Press regen to regenerate all the scene, and I think it's looking really good. Now let's apply the same hatch to the walls here on the side. So I'm going to go to hatch again, and I am going to hatch this part right here, also this part right here, and also this part right. My AutoCAD is frozen, guys. And also this. We can do those two bits first, and then we can match the properties. These red circles indicate that the boundary is not properly closed, but for this case that's fine. We're just gonna press regen and we're gonna get rid of those. So it's closed here, should be alright. So let's try again on this bit. Press hatch and let's hatch here. See, this time it did it perfect. And now let's match the properties from these bricks up to these bricks. Yeah, I think it looks good in theory. You can see a little bit of the brick through the tree, which is absolutely fine. Now let's apply a different hatch for the water feature. For the water feature, I'm gonna click hatch again, and I'm gonna hatch it with a different style. I am gonna use this one right here. I am going to scale it to 1, so we have that nice texture on the water feature. And I am going to swap the color for a different tone. Probably we can use something like a dark blue. Let's go to the color blocks, something dark blue like this, so we have a nice effect. Actually, it doesn't look quite right because it's very dark, so we can swap it for a more bluey color like that. I think I like it. We can represent that it's a water feature. And now we're gonna hatch this bit behind the plants. This one may be a little bit tricky because all the leaves, but let's try it. So let's press hatch, and before clicking, hold on the mouse a little bit here so it recognizes all the areas, and then let's press click. As I was expecting, it's kind of like lagging a little bit because all the planting. So for doing the bricks on this area, because this is gonna create a little bit of complications because of the shrubs, I am going to create a new layer that is gonna be called hatch boundary. And we want this layer not to be printed never. It's gonna be like a hack for creating a fake boundary for the hatch. And we're gonna use this magenta color just to create quickly a hatch boundary. So I'm gonna go to the polyline tool. I am going to deactivate the O-snaps, and roughly I am going to draw a shape around this bamboo. Now I'm gonna do the same right here, something like that. It doesn't need to be perfect because you will also be able to see a little bit of the brick behind, so that's absolutely alright. So something like that. Then we can do something similar, then something similar here as well. I have deactivated all the O-snaps so we can just go freely and don't get stuck in any kind of endpoints or midpoints. It gives you, it's like an artistic brush, an artistic brush. You just go there and have a little bit of freedom. Otherwise, if we apply the hatch like that, depending on the type of computer, but even if you have like a very nice computer, AutoCAD still lacks in the hatch function even in 2026. So there we go, that looks alright. And now what we're going to do is I am going to switch off the layer of the bamboos. Oh, wrong layer. Layer freeze. This one right here. Oh, the planters are also on that layer, so these planters need these blocks need to go to the planting layer. Now I can freeze them. Now I am going to use trimming command to quickly trim these imperfections. There we go. And this is a trick that you can use in your projects when you're having problems with hatches. You can create like a fake boundary, which is easier to manage for the system. Now press hatch again, and I'm going to hatch right here and right here. I'm also here, and voila, you get a nice effect quickly. And now we can match the properties from this brick up to this brick. And we can go to layers, bring back the planting symbols, and there you go, you have a nice hatch. And then you can just switch off this, and then we have the hatch nice and steady behind there. If you want to add a little bit of bricks here, you can create another boundary and also hatch inside there, but for this case I think it looks alright like that. Now it's time to make the furniture to stand out a little bit more here. And for doing that, I am going to create a new hatch inside the chair and the table. And this time I am going to isolate these items just to work with this. So select all of these, select this, then right click, select similar, then select the chair, right click, select similar. Now right click, isolate objects, so we can work only with these pieces. Now let's go back to the general hatches layer, and for the chair and table is gonna be a white hatch. So first hatch all of it like this. I don't want to hatch the legs, it's open right here, so first I need to close them, and I'm gonna change that to a solid hatch. But it's not gonna be completely white. I think we can change the color to a slightly gray, so it's darker, probably like that. We can go even more so it doesn't stand out as much and it's a bit more discreet, maybe like this. Yeah, I think that looks alright. Now in this layer I'm gonna make it current. I'm gonna make current this layer, and I am going to do a polyline to close the legs of the chairs so we can hatch the legs as well. Oh, Ctrl C, and let's create those as well on here because that's the other elevation, and also right here. Okie doke. So let's press save and let's hatch the other bit. So I'm gonna go back to the general hatches layer, and I am going to hatch the legs of the chair like this. It says it doesn't have a boundary, so press enter, finish that one, and then create a new one for this one. It's gonna sort it out. Press enter again. Now I'm gonna match the properties from this hatch up to this hatch, but this one is gonna be even darker, so we have a little bit of contrast between the legs and the sitting part. Can be even a bit darker, maybe up to here, a bit less, something like that. And it looks really good because you have like a little bit of contrast in between the two pieces of the chair. And now we are going to hatch here as well. So we're gonna click here, 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 and here, and those ones are gonna be the same properties from this part up to here. And for the legs, I am going to hatch a leg, enter, another hatch for the other legs, and I am going to match the properties from the legs right here. So go here and then come back here, and now let's press lay on to switch on all the layers, isolate, and isolation. And each time I switch on all of the layers, everything comes because these ones are off. So I don't want them to come next time, so I'm gonna completely freeze them. So lay freeze and lay freeze. So now when we press the command lay on, those ones are gonna kept frozen. I think the deck is quite intense, so I am going to change the color of the deck because it's too yellow. So maybe we can go for this brown. Let's test it to see how it looks. I don't really like it. I think it can be better maybe if we use a gray as well, but slightly lighter. Maybe like this one. I think that looks much better, but it doesn't give you that effect of wood. So what we could do is probably we can swap again to color box, and let's test maybe this. I think I like more that orange. It's better than the previous yellow. Let's let it like that. So we still need to hatch the wall on the other elevation. We have a similar scenario here as we did with the other. So for doing that, I'm gonna unfreeze the hatch boundary that I just froze. I am going to make it current, and I am going to draw a fake boundary around all this planting, switching off the OSNAPs, just something like that, so we can hatch the bricks over there. Doesn't need to be perfect, but the more effort you put on this, probably the more detailed is to be your drawing. For this case, I'm happy for it to be like this. So this is just a quick exercise of hatching around the planting area, something like that. Enter, and then I am gonna do something similar. This piece of bamboo right here. Enter, and now I'm gonna switch off this layer. I'm gonna change the layer of these ones to the planting because it was on the other layer. Now I am gonna switch it off, lay off, and I am going to trim this bit right here, this bit right here, this bit right here, and also this bit right here. I'm gonna press save to save my drawing, and I am going to hatch this wall, and then I am going to match the properties from this type of brick to this type of brick. So let's click on lay on, and this is where we are. We can freeze now the hatch boundary. It doesn't let me to freeze it because I have that layer selected, so just select another layer and then let's freeze it. There we go, we have that layer freezed, and we're gonna go back to the general hatches drawing, to the general hatches layer, and we are going to hatch this paving right here. So let's go like this. To make it quicker, I'm gonna show you a trick. So delete that, lay ISO, enter. This command is gonna isolate only this layer. As you can see, that is on the ground layer, so I am gonna put that on the general hatches, and it's gonna tell me that it's gonna be hidden. So all of these should be on the general hatches layer, right? So now I am gonna switch back that layer, general hatches, and I am going to isolate only this area. Right click, isolate, and now press hatch, but this time I am going to the hatch by origin. This time I'm gonna click select right here, and I'm going to select all the bricks at once. I am going to delete that. I am going to hide that object, and now I'm going to type hatch again, unselect, and I'm going to select all of these bricks, enter. As you can see, it applied the hatch to all the pieces, And I am going to change the aspect of the hatch to be a solid hatch. These ones are going to be in a lighter color, probably something like that. And I'm going to press lay on, right click, isolate, and object isolation. And this is how our planting is looking. I think we can still improve it a little bit, and especially on the plan view, I think we can hatch a little bit. I think that's looking alright. Now it's time to add some annotations and some dimensions. To do that, I am gonna go to my layer that is called info_quotas, and I already had this dimension style setup, which is also free on the template that it's on my Patreon. So for doing that, I'm gonna press dimension, which is this one right here. I'm gonna click on linear, and I'm gonna start adding some dimensions just to indicate how is our layout. So get another one from this point up to here, and then we can create one more from this point. We could also indicate the size of the planters, and we can create another one right here, and we can also indicate the size of the deck. We are focusing on the patio, that's why the dimensions go up to there. And we can create another one from here up to here, and then one more from this point up to this point. Right, now for the elevations, we can indicate the height of the wall on here, and we can put it right here. From this one, we could indicate the height of the planters. We could indicate the height of the planters on here as well. There we go. And I don't know why my brick become very light, but I'm gonna manually change the color to this darker brick. It looks much better. And let's create another dimension here on the door. We can also add the dimension from the overall, and we can also add a solid hatch on the roof and on the house, because currently it's showing us blank. So we create a fake boundary with this fake boundary layer that we created before to close here. Then we can create a solid hatch on the house, something like this and something like that, and then that can become a solid hatch, which is very dark color, something like this, even darker probably. So let's go to more colors so it doesn't stand out too much. You can do even more, something like that. And yes, it's looking good. We can also do the same here. So let's go right here. Now let's hatch it right here and also here. Let's match the properties from here up to here. Now let's go back to the layer. Let's freeze that layer. It's telling me that I cannot freeze it because I had it selected, but now I can. So those hatches are in the ground layer. Select the hatches and change them to the general hatches layer. Now we can switch off this one, and there we go, guys. I think for our last step, I'm just gonna quickly switch off this annotation layer, and I'm going to change the layer color of the boundary to white color, and then I am going to apply some widthness, some global widthness to these walls. So I'm gonna select all of these lines, not this one, just use the boundary like that. And then here on global width, I am going to type 5 millimeters, maybe 10, so it's clear what's the boundary, make it just thicker. And this line probably shouldn't be that thick, this should be 0 as well. And here we can cut a little bit. We can cut here, we can cut here, we can cut here as well. Put this one like that as well. And let's match the properties from here to here. And also to this one. We could perhaps also include this rectangle on elevation on global width 0, because in reality that's not that thick. And we could bring this up to here and this up to here. Just the final touches, guys. Let's close that one. Global width of 5 millimeters, 10 millimeters. Create a copy from here up to here. Now let's join all these together. And yeah, I think it's looking good, guys. We could perhaps do the same thing here. So match the properties from this point up to this point, and then create another line up to here. Trim this bit, trim that bit, match the properties of the global width. Let's join them so we get a nice corner. And yeah, there we go. I think we are finished. Let's compare what just we have been doing. And for doing that, I am gonna move the sketch close to here. So we have the paving feature with the planters, we have the bamboo, we have the deck area with the table, we have the tree. The elevation of the house looks similar to we initially sketched. Guys, this is everything for today. Let's switch on the dimensions to see the final product. We could keep adding more dimensions, but I think this covers the basic concepts of drafting quickly and accurate real plans that look professional from just hand sketch. If you made it up to this part of the video, all I can say is thank you very much for your patience. Thank you very much for following this workflow. I truly hope you have learned lots of things. If you have any suggestions in how I can improve this, please let me know in the comment box. I always love to read your ideas. I always love to read all the opinions that you have. It fulfills me with emotions and with motivation to keep doing these type of videos. Also, let me know if you are interested in other types of landscape, or if you want to learn specific tools. In the next part of the series, we are gonna 3D model this from scratch here on CAD. We're gonna do all the basic modeling, and then potentially in the next video we're gonna start to look at how to render it on V-Ray on 3ds Max. Guys, this is everything for today. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.